Hello. We are live with the Custom Tour Championship, the 1970 season. First two rounds not broadcasted, so this is the first broadcasted. Broadcasted? This is the first round that has a broadcast this season. We're just getting a few seconds to get things set up. We've got a very interesting race here today at Monaco. To give a very quick season recap, at round one, we started at Old Laguna Seca, in which this is a 6-round 12 race format, similar to our F3 championship that we ran in 1993. That was set in. This is in 1970, as I said. It's still 2 races, each 20 minutes long, determined by lap count. Laguna Seca was won by, in race 1, Yoshikawa Yoshitsune in a Nissan Skyline GTR. And race 2 is won by Kale Basser in an Alfa Romeo GTA. We then went to Germany, to Prinzen Park, where race 1 was won by Nithi Lawler Sr. in a Pontiac Trans Am, and race 2 was won by Marco Kalbanger in a Ford Capri. We've got quite a varied grid, as you can probably already tell. We've got quite a few different cars on the grid. We've got, as I said, there's the Pontiac Trans Am, Nissan Skyline GTR, Renault Alpine A110, Ford Capri, Ford Mustang, Abarth TC1000, Alfa Romeo Montreal, Alfa Romeo GTA, Jaguar Mark II, Opel Commodore, and a Datsun 240Z, or Nissan 240Z, however you wish to think of it, and also a Fiat Dino Coupe. So a nice selection of cars. I think I've mentioned all of which are on the grid. Our drivers are currently doing private qualifying as we speak. I'm just waiting for that to finish, because as soon as that is finished, we will we'll be all good to spectate the actual races. Monaco going to definitely be quite a tricky circuit. Got to crank up the audio. That is all right. Thank you for letting me know in the chat. We are I am in the orange on my microphone, so I don't really want to get much louder, if I'm being perfectly honest. I can put a bit more gain on. I'm just very nervous about this causing issues. Let's give this a go. Hopefully this is a little bit better. We are already at maximum volume though, so we will see. Yes, as I say, our drivers are currently going through qualifying. Unfortunately, no hot lap this race to show how it is for our drivers completing qualifying. But it's old Monaco. It is it's very similar in the first few sectors to modern Monaco. Very, very similar. But then after the tunnel, instead of a technical section, you have a nearly flat or flat chicane depending on the cars. The larger cars have to take it a lot slower on this grid. Into a slight ramp up to then running along Harbourside into a hairpin to finish the race. So it's a very different Sector 3. It's very interesting. As we wait for qualifying to finish, I would like to very much thank all of the drivers who have been turning up to these races so far. I believe we've got a grid of about 16, 17 today. We'll be able to see properly after qualifying. These races can't happen without people turning up. I know that there is the Indy 500, although last I saw it was red flagged, on at the minute, and there is also the is it Le Mans this week? Either way, very, very bit busy. It might not be actual Le Mans. I can't remember. I know there's something going on there. Either way, qualifying looks to be complete, and we have our pole sitter, Alberto Dante Levas, in the Alpine A110, followed by Yoshikawa Yoshitsune in the Nissan Skyline GTR, Hans Helmut Basler, in the Alfa Romeo Montreal, Dr. Clive Ainscough in the Opel Commodore, Ilya Van Dam in the Ford Mustang, Iki Kirpichenko also in the Alpine A110, Nithi Lawler Sr. in the Pontiac Trans Am Firebird, Berengar Toscanini in the Alfa Romeo Montreal, Marco Carbanger in the Ford Capri, and in 10th position, Bruce Ning in the Abarth 1000 TC. So a very varied grid. We've got 18 drivers on the grid, it looks like. Quite a few people who failed to set a quality lap in qualifying. And we can get across fairly soon to the stream. Hopefully we have the audio of the cars on the grid. Just gonna pull it down a tiny bit. And here we go. Unfortunately, not really any amazing camera sets for this circuit. So we'll go with this for now. And once they're away, we will be able to switch to the proper camera. As you can see, 11 laps our drivers have to complete. Starting lights are up. And away they go. Lights are out. As we go into turn 1, we can see Alberto Dante Levas there in the A110, managing to continue holding on to his lead, pulling ahead of the Nissan Skyline. The Opel trying to get alongside the Skyline. Looks like there's a lot of argy-bargy going on back there between the cars. It seems like they've just about managed to survive all of those little contacts as we see the whole grid coming through. Hans Helmut Basler has managed to get up into second ahead of Yoshikawa Yoshitsune. Behind Akiko Pachenko has made a great move off of the grid. Looks like people getting a bit sideways through this corner. Unfortunately, not the best cameras available to us this race currently. I will try my best to alternate between higher field of view and lower field of view ones. We've got too wide between second place with that Opel of Clive Ainscough right behind these three, right behind these two. Desperately trying to get ahead of Yoshikawa Yoshitsune right here. As we come into the chicane for the first time, nice and cleanly done by these three. We're going to jump a bit further back. Olivia Van Dam a little bit behind. Oh my goodness, there's been a horrendous crash behind. One of the Abarths, looks like Bruce Ning, has had a horrendous accident. Looks like everyone's managed to get through, though. Don't know if anyone ended up in the harbour. Looks like 18th, Filio Romelli has had to take evasive action, ended up inside the runoff. As we talk about that, it looks like there's been a horrendous accident at the hairpin, continuing to go on. Looks like it's maybe caused by Yoshikawa Yoshitsune hitting the rear end of Hans Helmut Basler, and it just kind of spiralling out of control from there. We head into lap 2. This is done is giving Alberto Dante Levas a great chance at pulling away and pretty much guaranteeing his win. So the rest of this race very much in his favour. Now Clive Ainscough making the most out of all of this kerfuffle, managing to take second place. Berengar Toscanini in that beautiful purple Alfa Romeo Montreal, right behind though, hot on his heels. Yoshikawa Yoshitsune trying to make that ground quite aggressively. We'll see how well that goes. Through the hairpins, definitely that concertina effect is definitely being felt among a lot of the cars. We'll jump back into this group behind. See Nithilo the Senior, one of the largest cars on the grid in the Pontiac, being chased down by Akiko Pachenko in the Alpine, which is probably the second smallest car on the grid. So this is really what you get to see this season. An awful lot of mismatched cars in terms of size, battling it out between each other. As we come down into the chicane, you can really see from that angle just how quick it is for these drivers to go in through them. And up that little ramp, it's really, really impressive how well people are managing to hold it through there. You lose all grip going up over that ramp. So people taking that very quickly. As I say, quite impressive. Looks like there's been yet more handbrake sliding around the hairpin. Seems like that might have been what has been causing issues, is some people using the handbrake, some people not. Either way, we are going to be jumping back to these front runners. Looks like it's kind of stabilised here up front, to be fair, for now. As we kind of follow Berengar for a little bit. All of these cars of the medium size of these four, so very much seems like it's been the sort of the lucky ones have all managed to get through in the medium cars. That being said, the lead and being extended by Alberto Dante Levas, looks like we might have moved down the inside out of the hairpin actually, and that is managed to be pulled off. You'd never see that at modern Monaco. Very nice little move by Berengar. Little slide just to kind of show off, I think. Show off that move. We're going to go on board with Berengar now if we can. And just to show how tricky this is as we go through this chicane, how much management is needed of speed coming through here. It is very tight. Just barely managing to get through. Looks like there's a car behind. Has actually managed to be has actually hit the wall behind. We're going to see if we can figure out who. It might be Nithilo, they may be making that contact. Looks like there's still cars crashing there at that corner. Looks like it's down in 10th. Looks like it's maybe Hans Helmut Basler. Don't know if it was a contact from another driver or what caused that. Either way, that's got to be kind of gutting for them to be all the way down here now. Both times a contact being the thing that pulls them out of contention. We'll see whether or not the first one was somebody else's fault or not. So we continue on to lap 4. Berengar now sort of best of the rest in second place. Really getting close to that outside barrier there. Getting a really nice line though, despite it. Very, very closely followed by Yoshikari Yoshitsune, who is very, very desperate to get through. He's constantly looking for a way past, but that slidey Alfa Romeo ahead of him is just proving a little too tricky. And ripping the handbrake might be the fastest way around the corner, but it definitely loses you a lot of control, which may be, as I said, that might be what caused previous contact earlier in the race. So they go too wide out of that corner almost. Just go watch these through the chicane here. Just go double check that they both make it through. Definitely the hardest corner on the circuit. They both make it through very, very well. I'll actually jump a little bit further back because I see another battle between large and small. Ronnie Ning in the Abarth. Olivier Van Dam ahead. You can see here, the Abarth very much, you could almost fit 3 of them inside that Ford Mustang. Quite a tricky overtaking game all season for the Abarths. They are the second slowest car on the grid in terms of horsepower, but they more than make up for that in the weight that they don't have from being so small. And it's worked out with moderate success for the small cars. The Alpine, as you can see, is leading the race. Very much looks confident, firm winner of this race at least, in Alberto Dante Levas. That being said, we will see if that continues. Does look like the gap's closed down a little bit behind. I'm also going to jump a little bit further back. It looks like there's a bit of a battle between the Jaguar here. The one Jaguar that's turned up today, Jaguar Mark II. Between this and Kingling ahead in the Abarth. The Jaguar going up the inside. A really nice move attempted here. 2 wide round Casino. And 2 wide through the next part. Looks like the Abarth maybe just clipping the inside curb a little bit. So go down into the technical section of the circuit, or the first technical section. Abarth slightly making contact with the Jaguar, kind of slightly elbowing it out of the way, but it's okay because the Jaguars managed to go down the inside. A little bit of rubbing his racing going on here, I think, between the touring cars. Bit more contact. Looks like the Abarth maybe try to turn in where the Jaguar was. That really was not a move that looked like it was on at any point there from the Abarth. Unfortunate that we got to see that, and unfortunately just coming around the corner, the Abarth coming around the corner was unable to avoid the Jaguar that was stopped. So jump back forwards because another Abarth, the one that's doing the best out of them, still battling Olivier Van Dam. Been ongoing for quite a while now. It looks like just coming across the start-finish line. Looks like despite Ronnie Ning in the Abarth, his attempts, he can get ahead at some points of the lap, but he can't hold it across the line. It's got to be very, very close between these two. I think we might see some very sketchy or risky attempts at moves as we progress through the race. A little bit about the cars quickly. These are all on a set power to weight ratio that rewards the larger cars on the grid with a slightly better power to weight ratio than the smaller cars. That being said, there is a good sort of about 300, 400 kilograms, I think, separating the lightest cars from the largest cars. In terms of horsepower, we're looking from about sort of 175-ish all the way up to 300 horsepower. So this is probably one of the most extreme battles on the circuit right now between Ning and Van Dam. And it'll be interesting to see if we could just go on to the fastest laps. If you ignore Alberto Dante Levas in the lead, we can actually see that Ronnie Ning has one of the fastest other laps. I think he's got the second fastest lap out of all of the drivers on the circuit right now. And these two managed to catch up to ahead of them, Marco Carbanger and Nithi Lauda Senior, who are both having a battle of their own as we come on to the start of lap 7 for these lot. You can see that interval to the lead definitely hanging around about 6 seconds. And yeah, very much looks like Alberto kind of guaranteed the win here, but this second place might not still be fully sorted. We will see. All it takes is one mistake, and it can very quickly change up the order, as we've seen already. Let's get back on these other cameras just very quickly. You can see on the track map at the top right, we can see it's very close, even despite there's not necessarily many overtakes. Still a lot of close running, a lot of people getting quite close. We can see that right now, actually. We can see Carbanger being followed very closely by Ronnie Ning. As we come down into the chicane again. Nice and quick through there from the drivers. Looks like they're both trying around the outside of this corner. I'm not sure that's going to work. And it doesn't look like it has. It's now a drag race down into the hairpin, but Carbanger has the inside. Looks like Olivier Van Dam maybe looking to make it 3 wide. Maybe just not quite having the confidence or the room maybe to actually go for it. Carbanger behind now. Looks like Ning did end up managing around the outside. A pass on Carbanger. As we now come on to lap 8. Still pretty close between these three. It looks like in only just that one small lap, I say small lap, about 1 minute 40 lap time, already Nithi Lauda Senior has managed to pull a good 2 seconds on Ronnie Ning behind. So it just really shows you in these cars, regardless of it being at Monaco, this has been the story all season. These cars have all really struggled to maintain race pace while battling. You use sometimes 2 or 3 seconds a lap at any circuit. I mean, even at Laguna Seca this was true. That being said, it's nice to see that we've got some side-by-side action here at Monaco. I'm sure we'll have more in the next race. But there's definitely a circuit you want to pick your moment for going something. It's also great to see Hans Helmuth Basler managing now. You see their green car just there in the background. Managing to make the way back up, catching this little group quite quickly actually. If we look at best laps, we can see that the best lap of Carbanger 45.4, Helmuth doing a 43.9, which is actually even 4 tenths faster than Van Dam's managed. So we might see a pass here in the not so distant future. In the meantime, looks like Nithi Lauda Senior still is hunting down Ronnie Ning ahead, who's just set a 42.6, which I'm sure you can see on the dice 1 second faster than anyone else on the circuit right now. He's absolutely flying in that Abarth. Even still though, the Pontiac right hot on his heels, last lap of 45, but just seems to have pulled time out of somewhere. And he's very aggressively going for it right now. Only half a second separating the two cars. 3 laps, well, 2.5 laps to do it pretty much for Lauda Senior. Let's come down into the hairpin. A much more awkward job for the Pontiac than it is for the Abarth, which is obviously being a little car kind of designed for these city streets and definitely gives them that advantage in these city circuits. This is the second of our 2 street circuit rounds. I'm going to jump a little bit further back on the grid order now, because it looks like Basler is now right behind Carbine. We might see a move in the hairpin. We'll see how the speed is carried through the chicane. Looks like maybe Carbine just carrying that a little bit more confidence has maybe just helped a little bit. That being said, through the jump, the little ramp there, all of a sudden we've pulled a lot of time down. So we're going to see, as we come down into the hairpin, no move attempted as such, but definitely looked a little bit more controlled from Basler through there. We'll still continue to follow. I do appreciate the interval may not be perfectly accurate at all times at this circuit. It does seem to have a small issue with how close the circuit gets in certain places. That being said, as much as Yoshikawa Yoshitsune is now sort of firmly in second, good 6-second gap either way, it looks like Berengar's being hunted down by a certain Clive Ainoskoff behind him. These two had a great battle all the way through our previous round at Princeton Park. It looks like that this might be a battle that we continue to see throughout the season, based on this certainly. That Opel, very, very overbearing in terms of height over the Alfa Romeo Montreal. This Tuscany comes down into the chicane here. Once again, these cars in clean air able to run pretty quickly. I mean, Berengar running 44.5s, which might not seem super fast when we've seen 42s from the rest of the grid in places. But if it doesn't matter if you can run a 42 if you can't make anything out of it. That being said, Berengar making a bit of a mistake through the hairpin. I think it just made Clive Ainoskoff just check up a little bit there. Seems like everyone has survived the ordeal. Carbanger is going to be very nervous though here on the final lap about Hans Helmuth Basler right behind. That being said, looks like Kel Basser and Olivia Van Dam also having a very, very close battle here. We're going to jump to the battle ahead. These two first. I will be watching both intervals. Looks like it's going to get very close. Basler just slightly catching the guard railing through turn 1 there as they go up the hill. That is going to cost them a little bit. Very, very, very marginal damage to the car, but it's more the loss of momentum from just catching that railing is going to really, really... That might be the slight contact that's going to have cost them this potential position gain. That being said, not an easy circuit. Carbanger's still got an entire series of corners to do, and definitely the hardest corner still on the circuit ahead of them, that being this chicane coming up. As Alberto Dante Levas is coming around to the final corner, that is him guaranteed his win. Just simply one corner to deal with right now. Same with second place, just one corner to deal with. But as we watch these coming down into the chicane, speed carried. Basler behind definitely carried a bit better speed through that. We might see a last minute lunge at this hairpin. We're going to see how close the two cars get. Carbanger very sideways, it looked like, at least from our perspective. Coming down to the hairpin, it's going to be a massive lunge if it is one, or a really big, really bad lock-up here. Oh dear, it looks like Basler behind just getting into the wall a little bit, maybe just a little bit loose on the brakes. Unfortunately, that is going to give Carbanger 8th. Unfortunately, going to give Basler 9th. Wait. So yes, 8th, I was correct. And Carbanger retains his 7th place. That being said, congratulations to our podium sitters. Alberto Dante Levas, who has won the race from pole, and we can see an attempted drift there. And second place, Yoshikawa Yoshitsune. Again, attempting some drifts. Seems like people may be attempting drifts with expecting a bit more power on throttle than they may actually have. Third position was retained by Berengar Toscanini, who has been giving us some very nice propaganda drifts all through the race, to be perfectly honest. Very distinctive car on the grid. And Dr. Clive Ainscough, they're in fourth. Again, very well driven by the driver. Kirpichenko, here we can see, taking fifth in that Alpine A110. You see the cars behind. Looks like Carbanger and Basler still, even though it is now the end of the race, still just having a little bit of a battle there, just for a bit of fun, it looks like. And that is our first race complete. Hopefully that stream has been okay so far. As I say, it has been a while since it's been set up, so please do let me know in the chat if there are any issues. Despite the carnage early on, it looks like there was some pretty good battling for the rest of the race. We always expected Monaco to be a bit of a messy round. And we'll very shortly be going again. It'll be a reverse top 10, the grid. So out of our 18 drivers, the top 10 finishers will have their finishing position reversed. So assuming that that is correct on the timing board, your race 2 pole sitter will be Kel Basser. And we will just very, very quickly get ourselves sorted. Second, just double checking. Yeah, perfect. Right. Off we go, ready for our second race. And away we go. Looks like Van Dam on second on the grid. Marco Carbanger going through the pit lane. We're going to see how well that goes for them. Hopefully avoiding any of the cars parked. Van Dam, it looks like Kel Basser managing to carry the momentum around the outside. A lot of slight bumps going up the hill behind. No major contact so far, just a lot of bumping and rubbing. Very, very compact grid here. We're going to hope that the concertina effect here is kind of expected and respected. I have a feeling maybe not so much as we would hope. As we see the cars come down the hill, Basser very much in the lead. Down into the hairpin. Just going to lock the camera here for a second. You see quite a few cars going too wide here, and there's multiple cars punted around by people trying to do handbrake turns. It's not gone well, unfortunately. Looks like the rejoins have managed to do okay. Unfortunately for Clive Ainscough, this has not been great for him in the slightest. It's really, really unfortunate. Once again, people not respecting the concertina effect coming back to bite them. Being said, Kel Basser pulling out a huge lead from this. A good 2 seconds of safety. There's Van Dam, Carbanger and Basler behind. All looking to make the most out of it. And we're going to lock the camera once again. We see all these cars coming through. Just get a chance to see all the different lines. You can see some people opting for the handbrake, which I think might be what's causing some of these contacts. Some people opting instead just for a nice and safe grippy method. Some people, like we saw there, Berengar Toscanini opting for a bit of a Scandi flick into it. Some drift, maybe some rally DNA in that driving style coming through. Very, very interesting. We'll jump back forwards because it is still very, very close between our group at the front, despite I don't think any overtakes so far. Basler looking to be right on the tail of Marco Carbanger and definitely looking to get down that inside earlier this race if possible. And has definitely had the pace on Carbanger, just couldn't find the room to make a move. That being said, looks like maybe here Iki Kirpichenko is going to take both of them in one move or attempt to. It's like just being on the outside there has caused a few issues. So we now have we have Ford Capri, Alfa Romeo Montreal, maybe even deciding to sort of make a quick temporary pact of like, look, I know we're battling, but we don't want to let them through, they'll take off. The two Alpines, very much two of the quickest cars on the circuit. These small cars definitely seem to be capable of the fastest singular lap times. It's more maintaining them that's the difficulty. So we'll see whether or not the Alpines fight much between each other as well. They very much want to work together and not cost each other too much time to Nithilor the Senior behind, but we'll see whether or not how much they're desperate to keep him behind. That being said, looks like really nice hairpin there from Dante Levas. Much tighter line than Iki Kirpichenko. Seems to have gained him just a little bit of time there. We'll actually go on board these two as we watch these two battle. You can see very, very close little battle here indeed between these two. Too wide through Casino. And the Casino section. Going down the hill, back into single file, but I have no doubt that that will remain that way for very long. Back into too wide, coming through the technical section into the hairpins. I'm going to see what the plan is here. Obviously there's cars behind, cars all around really. Looks like Nithilor has tried to do a bit of an angle there. I don't think that was intentional contact. I think it's just such a large car, such a boat to get around there. That being said, we just saw behind a bit more sliding. Still very, very close. A lot of our grid. I mean, if we just see the gap to leader, still 9 cars within 8 seconds. And especially if you ignore the front two, very, very little in between this entire gaggle. Very much so. Having said that, looks like Iki Kirpichenko's made a mistake through the chicane. Don't know whether forced or not. That does seem to have spun him around, unfortunately for him. Very, very unfortunate there. Once again, though, it looks like Basler and Marco Carbanger having a bit of a drag race now down the main straight. As much as Carbanger's got half a car length on Basler, they're both going to be too wide into turn one. It's going to be who has more confidence. Both cars going a little bit sideways, just trying to get out turn in. Basler just barely managing to keep it out of Carbanger, still making contact, but just managing to reduce it. Doesn't manage to hold the position despite the attempt, but a very good attempt from both. That being said, we're going to jump a little bit further back. Yoshikawa Yoshitsune right on the back of Nithilor the Senior. Right on the tail, desperately looking for a way around through here. He knows that he has the pace advantage through the sectors where there's lots of handling. The problem is it's such a large car, it's how do you pass? It's kind of like, it's just like a blockade that you've got to work around. And going wide, just look for a line. Ronnie Ning has managed to make it through, very cheekily, on Yoshikawa Yoshitsune. It's a very, very clever overtake. Very smart move there from Ronnie Ning. as much as Ning will now pull out to try and get past the sheer horsepower difference, that is absolutely not happening. But we'll see through the chicane whether or not the speed that can be carried of the Abarth behind is going to allow him up the inside, which it looks like he's going to try. Up. And they're too wide. That being said, the Pontiac's managed to hold the outside very, very neatly there. I'm going to jump forward though, because we're also too wide further ahead, going into the chicane. And it is going to probably be Carbanger out ahead, but this time in the drag race, it might be Helmuth Basler. No, Helmuth Basler's beaten the drag race. He's got more traction, maybe on that outside line. Full car length ahead now is going to give them the much nicer line through turn 1. Carbanger very much still right on their tail though, hot on their heels. And the Abarth of our first race winner, Alberto Dante Levas, right on the tail, again looking to make the most out of battles. A very opportunistic style of driving for the small cars, and it's great to see Alberto managing to kind of pick his way through the pack despite having to start 10th after race 1. These three, I imagine, will be very much battling to the end. We can see a few little wall taps here and there, and some of these cars can get away with that a lot more than others. Dante Levas sort of maybe looking around the outside through this corner, has gone a little bit too wide though. That's going to give the position back to Carbanger. Although that being said, it looks like there's been a bit more contact. I think that was Dante Levas bit sort of up a bit too late maybe on the dive. I don't know. I didn't get a perfect angle of it. That said, look at this train of 5 cars now. All coming through the tunnel, all about to come through the chicane right now. We'll just go see them all come through very, very quickly. A huge amount of speed being carried relative to how fast these cars can go. Absolutely a test of driver skill, Monaco always is, but even more so that chicane. You've either got the chicane perfect, or you are in the harbour, or worse. Being honest, there's a little bit of contact there. It looks like Niviolta expecting to be able to do his handbrake turn, and just maybe not being fully aware of the cars ahead. Tries to get the rear end out and seems to have just slightly tapped Marco Carbanger. Speaking of Marco Carbanger, looking around the outside of Ronnie Ning, but that grip of that lighter car, just that less weight, allows the lighter car to carry a bit more speed through turn 1 and kind of comfortably retain position. That being said though, Carbanger's able to tuck right back in behind. He's gone up the inside into Casino, and it seems like he's managed to make it work. The Abarth maybe just desperately trying to get a little bit alongside, but you can't really do that through that corner super easily. Carbanger going defensive down into the first part of the hairpin section. I want to see Yoshikawa Yoshitsune already here. If anything goes wrong, he's there to make a move. That being said, he's gone down the inside. Kind of forced his car down the inside, desperate to make the move. It's not quite worked, and the Ford Capri has pulled back ahead. Very nice Renegade livery. This battle could be threatening to go on for the entire rest of the race. Very, very close between these drivers. As we come down into the chicane for the 6th time this race. Nicely taken by both drivers. You see the daunting Pontiac behind, ever looming threat if these two get too caught up in battling. Looks like while we've been talking about things, it looks like there's been yet more contact at the hairpin. Basler and Alberto Dante Levas maybe making a bit of contact, unknown who was at fault for that particular incident, but definitely some contact made. Let's go into the 7th lap. Kelbasa very much maintaining first position comfortably. Olivia Van Dam just 2 seconds behind. Seems like that's been the case for most of the race so far. Definitely a bigger gap opening up to them now after the contact between 3rd and 4th though. It seems like Ning has, however, made his overtake on 2 cars and is now able to kind of battle with another small car in Alberto Dante Levas. Abarth v Alpine. I don't think we've seen this much this season so far. Very least not for such a high up position. Meanwhile, in the background, as we see those all go around, we see this battle behind between Yoshitsune, Carbanger, and Lord the Senior also unfolding in the background. Now, I'm going to quickly go on board with Ning here, just to really just emphasise just how quick these cars go through. Even more speed carried by the Abarth. It looks like we're going to look to go around the outside, maybe just forcing the Alpine offline, seeing if there's any way that you can just get that slight advantage over the Alpine. As we come into the final corner, we see tyre smoke ahead. Yeah, looks like the Alpine maybe just making a bit of a mistake under braking, just slightly ploughing into the wall there. That's going to cost them the position, it looks like, running in clear. Being said, definitely not the end of Carnage. Still lots more positions behind being fought for. We've got just barely a second between these three still. These four, really. Iki Kopachenko still just sort of kind of right there behind. Looking for anything out of this. Again, maybe doesn't have quite the raw pace. We'll just have a quick check of the best laps. You can see 43s at the front, a 42 from Ronnie Ning. I believe that's the fastest lap of the race. Generally across the grid seems to be a much faster race at the front. Good second faster lap. Whether that's to do with the cars being following each other or whether everyone was pushing harder, not sure. That being said though, that 10-second gap from third to first, definitely not going to be recovered in 3 laps without an incident. Continue following this battle for 6th place, or more for 7th. Looks like Yoshikawa Yoshitsune has managed to pull away just that little bit that he's needed. So coming down into the chicane one more time. Very nicely taken. Again, you can just see the body roll of some of these cars and just how much they want to roll, how much they want to slide around these corners. It's definitely a very tricky thing to manage as we go too wide into the final hairpin. We're going to see who comes out better of this. Now, Lawther does have a good 50 horsepower over the Capri, but it's whether or not he gets to put it down in time and use it before turn 1. It looks like being on that sort of slightly awkward line through turn 1 has just managed to keep Carbanger ahead. It's allowed Iki Kopachenko to get right behind the two of them though, desperately using the slipstream of the Pontiac ahead that quite honestly could completely obscure. You can just see it just almost obscures the Alpine right behind, that red Alpine following. And I think we're going to see some, again, it's opportunistic moves from the small cars. They've got to try and stick their nose in places, which doesn't always go well for them. Especially when they're right outside here. Historically, going around the outside of this corner hasn't seemed to have gone well for the small cars. And I think this is another case of that. It's just not quite worked. That being said, we're going to jump a little bit further forward. It looks like, speaking of small cars, they've now caught up to Hans Helmuth Basler. They have Ronnie Ning and Alberto Dante Levas. This could be a little battle for the last podium spot spicing up here over the last 2 laps. So we're coming into the final chicane now. It looks like Ronnie Ning managing to carry a lot of speed through the corners. But again, if he doesn't have the straight line speed, he can get close, but he's got to make these moves in the corners. It's going to be really, really difficult to get any proper move done unless it's just a very clean-cut move through a corner. As we can see here, although Helmuth behind, Basler behind, now ahead into turn 1 by just about a car, just enough on the inside, just to retake that position. I think it's going to be interesting as well, depending where the start-finish line is. This might be enough for Ronnie Ning to steal third, if he can come out of the final corner ahead. But Alberto behind, definitely not looking to make this an easy third place for Ning, and goodness knows Basler is already doing the most that he can to hold that Abarth behind. It's going diving down on the brakes. Bit of contact made on the inside. Nothing's too major, it looks like, but we'll see. As the Alfa Romeo looks to try and get back down the inside, but isn't quite able to do anything too much. So go down into the tunnel section now. We'll see now how much the Alfa can make back up in a straight line speed going through the tunnel. It's probably going to catch a decent chunk here, but I don't know if he'll be able to carry the corner speed through the chicane. We're going to see. Maybe this is where a little bit of bravery comes out. Still pretty good overall maintenance of that speed through there from that Alfa. Good few 100 kilograms heavy, you've got to bear in mind. Lots and lots of weight difference between these cars. And while it's very easy for the small cars to take that corner nice and quick, the medium cars and large cars, definitely a lot more of a difficult fight there. That being said, it does look like Ning has managed to take third away. We'll see whether or not that is held. We're going to look a little bit further behind because this could be a battle for fourth now. Don't see many other battles on the grid currently. Looks like it's mostly settled down, depending on whether or not we have any more contacts. Maybe there has been contacts we've missed off camera though. Always possible. So we come round this final lap. It does look to be a good second between everyone actually, so I'm going to jump back to our leading from the start, race 2. Kelbasser very comfortably in that nice metallic green Basel Auto House, the Alfa Romeo GTA. Let's come down into the tunnel section. You can just admire. Let's just have a look at how our race leader is taking this section. Maybe a little bit more careful than others, especially with that 2-second gap. And we come right up against that wall really. You can see how much that little ramp unsettles the car. Impressive driving. But as Kelbasser comes round, that is our race winner. Kelbasser, well, I say that, it depends. It looks a little bit sketchy there. A little bit of sketchy drift. Not far behind, we have Van Dam in second. And coming behind, we've got Ronnie Ning in third, taking the third place position from Hans Helmuth Basler. Yoshikawa Yoshitsune there in fifth, followed by Alberto Dante Levas. Seems like there's maybe been a bit of contact we just missed right there at the end. Nithilor the senior in 7th. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think this order might be a little bit wrong actually. So we'll wait for the full results to come through. As we watch all the cars come across the line, we can see them just passing through the trees in the background as well. Not many drivers left to finish. That was Filio Romelli who just crossed the line there. We'll now have Clive Ainescoff. There they are. Followed by Lawrence Kelly-Rockford in that Jaguar there. We have King Ning here in the Bath TC1000. Manolo Enrique just managing to stay ahead, maybe just missed that battle at the end. I do apologise. Manolo Enrique's keeping ahead of Keith Sparrow-Roy. And Gustav Schaefer rounds out our finishers. But that is our 2 races complete. You can see there's still a few people still just driving around here. Doing a little cool-down lap. And unfortunately cut short by the end of race section. I will give the race results as soon as I have them. We'll just wait for them a short period of time. I can confirm the 2 race winners were Alberto Dante Levas for race 1 and Kelbasser for race 2. I'm just awaiting the full results file for race 2. That being said, for race 1, once again, Alberto Dante Levas was your winner. Yoshikawa Yoshitsune continue a very strong season in second. Vanguard Toscanini in third. Clive Ainscough fourth. Iki Kopachenko fifth. Nithi Lauder Senior sixth. Marco Karabanger seventh. Hans Helmuth Basler eighth. Olivia Van Dam ninth. Kelbasser 10th, who went on to win the second race. Ronnie Ning 11th. Just missing out just not having a strong first race. Just missed out on that potential. Definitely had the pace for a win if Ronnie Ning took 10th. Lawrence Kelly Rockford 12th. Filio Romelli 13th. King Ning 14th. Gustav Schaefer 15th. Bruce Ning 16th. Keith Sparrow 17th. Those 2 final finishes are lap down from the rest of the grid. And we did have a DNF from Manolo Enrique, who had some car troubles, unfortunately, a mechanical failure. Race 2, Kalbasa was first, followed by Olivia Van Dam in second, Ronnie Ning in third, Hans Helmuth Basler in fourth, Yoshikawa Yoshitsune fifth, Alberto Dante Leva sixth, Nithi Lauder Senior seventh, Marco Karbanger eighth, Iki Kopachenko ninth, Vanguard Toscanini 10th, Alfilio Romelli 11th, Clive Ainscough 12th. Unfortunately, not a great race after that contact on the first lap. I'm sure we will have a few reports in about that. Lawrence Kelly Rockford 13th, King Ling 14th, Manolo Enrique 15th, managing to scrape by a point after the mechanical DNF and having to start last in the second race. So glad to see that happen. Keith Sparrow 16th, just missing out on that final point spot by 4/10 that we just missed at the end. So I do apologise missing that off the broadcast. And Gustav Schaefer was our final finisher in 17th, with a DNF from Bruce Ning. So yes, thank you all for tuning in. We'll be here in 2 weeks' time, so not next week, we'll be in 2 weeks' time for our next round, which will be at a very, very, very different circuit. We will be going to Feldbergring, which, as you can imagine, very long circuit. It's about nearly a 5-minute lap time, so it'll only be about a 4-lap race for our drivers. Very much going to be kind of the Nordschleife round in some ways. It was between this and Nordschleife. We ended up going with Feldbergring. So yeah, only 4 laps, but it's going to track knowledge. Once again, it's going to count for a lot here. Lots of drivers very excited for this round, especially requested on the calendar. Once we're back from our 1-week break next week, though, as I said, Feldbergring in 2 weeks. The week after that will be at Buenos Aires. And our final round will be at Brands Hatch. So, definitely some great rounds to look forward to. I think Brands Hatch especially will be it always puts on a good race for us. But that will be the stream for today. Thank you once again, anyone who tuned in and was watching this broadcast. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.